Welcome to another episode of the Red Zone podcast. I'm your host, Emmanuel Point du jour, and today we are going to be breaking down and recapping the 26-17 loss to the BC Lions, the Calgary Stampeders, coming into Vancouver and dropping a very frustrating game, and I'll tell you why. But first, it was a great crowd at BC Place, 53,000 over that number. So it was great to see, and 50 Cent, that's why there was 53,000 before the game, putting on a great show. But let's get right into the game, and boy, this one was frustrating to watch as a Calgary Stampeder fan. And where we're going to begin, we're not going to begin with the quarterback position, because I thought Jake played great. And I don't think we'll discuss him in this podcast. Maybe I'll say his numbers. But we're going to talk about the other side of the football first, and that is the defensive side of the ball. And I'm going to include the whole defense in this because we pressured Vernon Adams early in this game. And that's why I wanted to see, as I said last week, was pressuring early and pressuring often. And we did that to start. And 2 and out for BC, I think, on the first 2 or 3 possessions of the game, and they were having a tough time getting the ball out, but no sacks. Like there were throws, there were attempts, but no sacks. And guess what? 0 sacks on the night. Yeah, you heard me right. 0 sacks for, against an offensive line that just a week prior to that allowed 6 in Toronto and lost to the Toronto Argonauts. Toronto came back and won that game. But, you thought with the pressures and with them getting to the quarterback last week, Toronto, that we'd be able to at least muster 1 or 2 sacks on Vernon Adams Jr. And we were close. But just like every running quarterback against Calgary, they just find a way to escape and run for like 10, 15 yards. VA only had 16 total rushing yards in this game. But man, you thought you could get a few sacks on this BC offensive line, but you weren't able to muster 1. So there's a lot left to be desired with the defensive line in this game. And also the pressuring at points at times was a bit weird. 2 spies on the back end is kind of weird because typically you're only supposed to have really 1 spy, or you only need 1 spy on a quarterback like Vernon Adams Jr. But I guess when you're Calgary and you're struggling to contain running quarterbacks, and it's been a theme like this for years now, that you send 2 spies. But Vernon Adams was able to find his receivers. He was able to find McInnes. He was able to find Hollins, and had no problems getting down the field. The second point that I want to talk about is the frustrating turnovers offensively. And they're only frustrating because they could have been avoided. They could have been avoided. All 3 of them. All 3 turnovers. The first one was a check down that went right through Dedrick Mills' hands. And guess what? It got picked off on the ground, scooped it up, and returned it for a couple yards. And yeah, right through his hands. That was just a simple check down pass that maybe wouldn't have gained anything, but still, you catch that, and that could have been avoided. I think BC probably scored on that. So yeah, that one can be avoided. The second one, in the fourth quarter, both of these last 2 are in the fourth quarter. It was a 3rd and 6. You're down by 6 midway through the fourth quarter on BC's 48-yard line. So you are in BC territory. It's a catchable ball. I checked this. Dropped by Clark Barnes. Yes, it was catchable. It was low. Maybe Jake Mayer could have put more arc on it, but it was dropped. It was just dropped, and it was a 3rd and 6. Who knows if he would have gotten the first? I think he would have. Maybe Jake could have put that more in front of him, but it was still very catchable, and he dropped it, down by 6, and that was bad. But the third one, you're also down by 6. You could go down and, get a touchdown here to take the lead, but A high arcing pass to Dedrick Mills on the BC 34-yard line, turned upfield before coughing the ball up, and Josh Woods batted it out of bounds with 3:29 left, which basically sealed it. So again, two drives where you're in BC territory, you're driving very well, and then you have those two turnovers. One turnover on downs, and then one you fumbled the football. Dedrick Mills won't be calling this a great game, even though he had multiple. I think he had 99 receiving yards on the night. So, yeah, 99. 6 receptions for 99 yards. He had a deep ball thrown to him. But this won't be a game he'll remember because he did struggle on the ground. 11 for 46. And we lost this game not only because of turnovers. Turnovers are one thing, but also in the trenches, just not good enough. And couldn't get to the quarterback, and then the offensive line giving up 4 sacks, and the running game was just non-existent. But Jake Maier, and when you say the running game was non-existent, you have to have a passing game, and that's where Jake Maier comes in to play. 26 of 33, 339 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. He was amazing. Enough, you can't ask for much more than what Jake Maier gave you. And unfortunately, you come out of there with a 9-point loss to the same BC Lions team that has just beat you over and over again. And you have to find a way to beat these guys. Is it our kryptonite? Who knows? But it really feels like it. It really feels like I know we've done it late in the year. We beat BC late in the season, but these early games, these mid-season games, you need to find a way to win, and Calgary had just fallen short, especially in the playoffs. We gotta find a way to beat BC if we're gonna find any success with beating them in the playoffs, or if we meet again for the third straight season. So what's next for the Calgary Stampeders, you ask? It is a bye week. Yes, an early bye, sitting at 1-1. There's a lot to improve on. As I said during this recap, tons to improve on, especially in the trenches. And hopefully we can fix that when we face a right now 0-2 Winnipeg Blue Bombers team. They have BC at home this weekend, so we'll see if they can pick up their first win of the year. Who would have ever thought that the Winnipeg Blue Bombers are going to be 0-2 after 2 weeks and possibly 0-3 before facing the Calgary Stampeders in week 4. But that's another team that the Stampeders are going to have to beat right now in the regular season if they have any chance on beating them, or getting number 1 in the West, or competing in the Western Division. You have to beat Winnipeg, and if they're 0-3, you're gonna have to get the job done, especially you're at home at McMahon Stadium. We're gonna see how they fare against a struggling but easily could bounce back Winnipeg Blue Bombers team. But that'll do it for this episode of the Red Zone podcast. Let me know what you think. What did you think about the BC Lions game, and how are you feeling heading into the bye week? What we should do for the Winnipeg game, and how we'll fare there. But again, have a great rest of your Wednesday. We'll see you next week. We'll see you next week to preview the Winnipeg Blue Bombers matchup. We'll see you next time, but until then, peace.